I don't know if it's Pohea. I think it's Pohea.
Well, if it's an R, then it's supposed to sound like an H if you're trying.
I think it's Pohea.
Yeah.
So Alex Pohea got his black belt at the end of his UFC
His stand-up match.
after his knockout, which was funny because he stepped on the guy's foot and threw an uppercut.
Sweet.
Pretty hilarious knockout. But got his black belt from Glover afterwards.
Who, Glover Teixeira?
Yeah.
Oh, really? Glover
Yeah.
gave it to him, huh?
So
Wow.
what this reminded me of is, and it said UFC on the other end of the black belt. So it kind of reminded me of when Frank Mir gave the MMA purple belt. We talked about that in the previous podcast.
Yeah. The belt said it was a UFC brand black belt?
So it had the black bar on one end, and then the other one had a logo like this, and it said UFC.
So maybe the UFC sells jiu-jitsu belts.
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, I didn't know that. Sounds like it.
But got his black belt, and he's been training for 9 years at this point, or close to it. So he's got time in. The time and place was a little interesting because you could say that he was due for his black belt, and they just wanted to make it a grand statement. But there's also the other questions of like where the coach is trying to get some attention. Was this just to make a point? And I know Pohea is like an ultimate troll on Izzy. And Izzy got his purple belt after one of his fights.
Did he?
And so Pohea's gone back and like beaten all the people that have beat Izzy, and then all the people that have beat Glover. He's been trying to go back and beat.
Who beat Pohea or whatever his name is?
I don't think anybody has.
Nobody's beaten him yet?
Izzy did. Izzy did once.
Did he KO him?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
But Izzy's only lost one out of like their 4 or 5 matches.
Izzy's won one.
Yeah.
Out of the 4 or 5.
Because they did kickboxing.
Right, and
Izzy was the champ. He came in, took it from him. Izzy went to MMA. He comes in, takes it from him. He got one back.
True rival, man.
He got one back though.
That is a true rival.
But in a match that had no jiu-jitsu, gets his jiu-jitsu match. I understand if he goes out there and like puts on a jiu-jitsu clinic. It's like, yeah, I brought the belt just in case.
Right. I mean, did he stuff any jiu-jitsu? Did the guy try like take him down? There was no wrestling at all.
It was quick. It was a quick fight.
Interesting, man. Striking. Yeah, all I could think is that they were planning on doing it either way. They were like, maybe, this is the best stage to do it on. But yeah, it seems silly. If the guy just is a stand-up fighter and knock the guy out and then you go give him a jiu-jitsu black belt for it, seems very silly. And then you got the other guys that don't get it forever, right? Like Mighty Mouse.
We were talking about Mighty Mouse, yeah. So he's been training since 2006. Been recently doing jiu-jitsu competitions, at least the one. He won his bracket and then got silver in the open weight division.
Brown belt? Yep.
He's a brown belt. Been a brown belt, I believe, since 2018.
So he's been a brown belt for a minute. Yeah, I can't imagine what's keeping him from getting a black belt. Maybe just all I could think is that maybe he's been focusing so much on MMA, right? That what we saw him go do Masters Worlds, like it didn't consist of him training for months for Masters Worlds like we all do, right? When we go do a jiu-jitsu tournament, he probably just got off his couch and went and got Masters Worlds, man.
He was saying he gets more nervous on that than he did for some of his last fights.
Yeah, that's crazy. I guess, man. Maybe he's that good at MMA where he doesn't get that nervous anymore for it. But he's obviously pretty decent at jiu-jitsu too. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know what's keeping him from getting a black belt other than maybe he hasn't been trained. Like the coach might want to see him more in the academy. Yeah. Like maybe he just doesn't train jiu-jitsu ever in the academy.
Belts are so strange because you have such different standards from everyone.
Right.
That it's I have a love-hate relationship with belts. Sometimes I'm just like, these belts are stupid and they're worth nothing, and then you give somebody an achievement and like, great job, and they're like all ecstatic, and that you see the spark of motivation in them and they want to get to it, or they're getting close and then they start putting in extra time and all these things. So it's like, it has its merits, but it's so all over the board on what is. And some people will say, oh, it's just how long they've been training. Other people will say it's 100% on their ability and their merit.
How good they are.
And some people will never be a black belt because they'll never hit this level.
Right.
And other people are saying that it's their own potential, right? So if somebody has the potential to be this level and they hit this level, well, then that's where they are. That's a black belt to them.
Yeah.
So the sliding scale, the metric on it, is just so all over the place that you can't compare them to any other place other than where you are.
Right. I mean, I think that's one of those things that if like the GB or IBJJF could, they would steer that as much as they could. They would love to lock in.
And I think they have tried a lot.
They have tried.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have tried. They make it so that they have all the rules and they just added a degree to like now you need to be a 3rd degree black belt
to be like, called professor.
To be called professor or to I don't know if it's own a gym or I don't know, give a black belt. I don't know what the heck it is.
Yeah.
But I know that they just changed it from 2 to 3, and it's like, you know, they do want to control that more. And I guess that would be one thing where, like you're saying, if they did control it more, there'd be less confusion about it at least. Yeah. There wouldn't be much of a debate about certain people in their belts, you know. But
because sometimes I think, okay, if we just made it about time, we'd have, even if you don't agree with giving belts on time, at least we have some sort of standard. And we can be like, oh yeah, the belt's based on time. That person's been training for 7 years. And you could be like, okay, they've been training for 7 years. Everybody's different. Okay, so they might be a good purple belt. They might be a bad purple belt. But they're wearing the purple belt because they've been training the X amount of time.
Right.
And everyone understands that. But the way that it currently is, you might have a purple belt that got their purple belt based on time, and you might have another purple belt who's been training for 3 years and is just an absolute monster.
Right.
And one's gonna smash the other person even though there's a time discrepancy, but at least we would know what the metric is.
I mean, all we would really know is how long a person's been involved in jiu-jitsu. You wouldn't even know how long they've been training.
Right.
I have heard people say, I've been X belt for 6 years, and I overhear that like, you train twice a month. Well, I don't care. Come on, bro. You can't. So it's like, if you're going to go by the time metric, you'd have to literally go by hours. Yeah. You would. You'd have to say, figure out a certain number of hours that a person needs to have in. You would.
You did 250 classes, you know, you move on to the next piece.
Right.
You did 250 classes.
Right, man. And that, if you're going to do the time thing, it would have to be based on that. You know, and I think to a certain extent, I do that. I do the time thing, but it's based on hours, not like I roll my eyes at people that tell me how long they've been a certain belt in the years. And okay, you've been that for 3 years, huh? Yeah, I don't see you very often, bro. You know, like don't give me the I've been this for this many years stuff.
That's where you get a Joe Rogan brown belt. That was a brown belt for 8 years.
Joe Rogan was a brown belt for 8 years because he just didn't train.
He was doing his shows and he was doing Fear Factor and always, you know, moving and going, that he wasn't able to spend a ton of time put together. No,
totally, man. In fact, like I remember I used to have this habit of specifying to people when I was still like when I was a purple belt and I just got it, I would tell people I was a blue belt for like 4 years or whatever, but I'd always say 9 months of it I took off in a row at one point, right? And like, you got to take that out. You didn't train for 9 months there, buddy? That don't count towards your 4 years. You better not. And most people don't do that. Most people do not subtract their days off when they're listing their years of training. It's like, no, man. So
what would be the threshold to count the week? Is it 2, 3, 4, 1?
To count the what?
The week or the month. So how many times in a month do you need to train to count the month?
Well, you wouldn't count the month.
Yeah. Like
you would count hours. Like if you're going to do it by that, it has to straight up be hours.
So 10 hours a month.
Right, something like that, right? Because what would that equate to? If a class is an hour long, right, then 2.5, 3 classes. I mean, 3 classes a week seems like an appropriate amount of training for like a hobbyist. Right. You know what I mean? So, but it also comes down to what classes, dude. If you're trying to sneak into the easiest class on the schedule and you're dodging all the tough classes, no, man. Like there's too many ways people can manipulate a system, Really, honest to God, there's way too many ways people can manipulate a system and start to feel like they can make a claim and should have the next belt. Get out of here, man. Like, honestly, that's one of my pet peeves right there, is hearing people refer to the years that they've been something when I know for a fact they don't train enough, right? You know, and the other pet peeve I got is when people refer to the belts like they don't care, because that's a crock of shit. And if that's the case, check it out. Like, I'm not saying people don't exist that don't care about their belts. They exist. They should never get one, though. Like, imagine that, you give a person $1,000 because you feel like they need it and they need the help, and then they tell you they don't care, they don't want that.
Right.
It's like, give me that back, bro. Yeah. Fuck off. You know, to give a person a belt who has this mentality of I don't care about the belts, then you don't get one, bro. You don't get things you don't care about. That's not how life works. In life, you need to care and dump heart, soul, sweat, blood, sweat, tears into something because you care about it, and then you get it. Right? If all you care about is, I just want to improve my jiu-jitsu, I don't care about the belts, okay, white belt. All right, be a white belt. Like, you don't ever want to tell your professor or whoever's responsible that you don't care about the belt.
This is a good,
because they won't get it.
This is a good conversation. I've brought up a couple points on this of if there were no belt. This is a hypothetical. If there were no belts, or if we just all wore white belts in the room, would that be better for jiu-jitsu or not? But under the current standing that there is belts, you have to follow the belt structure, because if you're just training for your own anything, it is what it is, right? You can take college courses without doing pass or fail, without actually getting a grade. You can take the college courses and learn the curriculum, and you can do that in jiu-jitsu also. But with the current structure of, I own a gym and everything, I need a black belt. It's a goal that I have for that. But I don't know if I would care about the belt structure if there wasn't a outward appearance of it.
Well, there wouldn't be anything to care about if it didn't exist.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like a weird one. Because if it didn't exist, what would we be talking about?
Yeah.
Not that, because that's not a thing.
That's a good point.
You know, it's like you go into a wrestling room, nobody has ranks.
Yeah.
Nobody is a black belt wrestler. Right?
And I kind of love that.
They just wrestle.
I kind of love showing up to the no-gi class and everyone's just there to train.
Right. Right. Like in my kids' classes, it's no-gi season right now. And when they go to line up on the wall, if a kid who knows he's a higher rank than the other kid tries to squeeze in front of him, I'll tell him, hop in, lion man at the end. Like, this is no-gi. Nobody has a rank on. You know, like, we're all just rash guard wearing people.
And I think there's a lot to that. I kind of like that aspect of it better.
Yeah, but here's the thing, bro. Most people will say that because they don't want to have the pressure of getting that next belt, right? Like, how honestly, like if I were to say I don't care about my next stripe, right? That's because I don't want to have to be held responsible for working my ass off to get it. I want you to leave me alone and let me slack off when I want to slack off, and this, that, and the other thing, right? And just do it at my own pace. Like, I just don't want to be held accountable.
That's part of the love-hate relationship, is like there is motivation in it. And you can say that belts don't motivate you and all this, but for the general public, belts motivate people.
Yeah, and like I said, bro, like I wasn't joking when I said there are some people out there that aren't motivated about it. Like for example, when it comes to degrees in school, you made the point that you can learn this stuff without getting a degree. I personally would not mind at all learning a lot about a certain topic and never having a little degree in a frame to put on my wall to say I have a master's in that, but still knowing as much as a guy with a master's. I'm cool with that. But I'm being honest. I genuinely don't care about it, and it's not that I don't want the pressure or anything. It's just that I only would want the knowledge, right? If I could be as smart as a doctor but not have a PhD, I'm chill with that, man. My ego's not that big. I don't need to be able to call me doctor, you know? No, I can know as much as them and not care, right? And there are people like that in jiu-jitsu. I know them. I know them personally, where literally they don't care about the belt. Like, genuinely, they just want to come and train. They do not give two shits about the color of whatever's wrapped around their waist. And the truth of the matter is, though, is that those people, you know, it gets to the point where you belt them when you have to. Because it doesn't mean nothing to them. Yeah. Why am I going to give you something that don't mean shit to you? You're getting what is important to you. What's important to you is the training, the blood, sweat, and tears on the mat. That's what's important to you. You get that every time you walk in here. You're welcome, right? If you really don't give a shit about the next belt, you ain't going to get it. I won't give it to you. You need to care. You need to say, fuck yeah, I want it, and fuck yeah, I'm going to jump through whatever hoops I got to jump through to get it because it's important to me. It's got to be important to you. Nobody wants to give somebody a gift that they don't appreciate. One of the shittiest feelings in the world is giving somebody something and having them just be like, oh, I don't need that. You know, it feels shitty. It's not. It feels good to give, right? It feels good to be able to promote a person. But if they don't care about it, nah, that don't feel good, man.
One of the things that my shift in belts was going from wanting the belt to wanting the belt from somebody. Because there's that relationship aspect of, I want to make this person proud. Like, they've been pouring, their knowledge into me. They've been pouring their, training with their sweat, tears, blood, whatever it may be. Right. And when I got my brown belt from you, that was the most significant belt that I've ever had. One, it's the highest belt that I've ever gotten. But also, like, there was a lot of things that I had to go through and prove and do to get to that point. And my black belt is like that same way. It's like the conversations that we have after class and all these things is because I want to get there. I want to prove that. And it's not necessarily just getting a black belt. It's, I want a black belt from you. Like, there's an aspect to that. And that's what's kind of changed for me, is it's not necessarily the color of the belt, it's the belt from somebody.
Yeah, I get you, man. If somebody were to come up to you right now and say, oh, I'm a 3rd degree, let me just give you a black belt, you'd probably turn it down.
100%. Because that black belt wouldn't have any value to me.
Right.
Even though it's a black belt, and we were talking about the business aspect of it, yeah, I could be wearing a black belt and be like, yeah, I'm a black belt. But it wouldn't be from the person that I've literally been training with and developing with, and that's changes everything.
Right. No, that makes sense, man. That makes sense. Because, like, you could genuinely be in that category of person I'm talking about. That I know they actually don't. They just want the knowledge, right? But then something like that can sway you, right? Maybe because, well, getting it from this guy means more, right? So yeah, absolutely, man.
Because that was kind of like that. I was like, yeah, the belts, they have their significance in outward appearance and everything, but we had that conversation of, you have guys under you, you need your belt. Here, and you kind of sparked that fire, and I know there's places that I could go where I could actually be ranked up quicker and whatever, but that's not going to be the meaning. That's not going to hold value, because I know when I get my black belt, I'm going to be like, holy shit, I got this black belt from Mike Stratton Jr. There's a lineage there, but all the training that we do.
Right, that's going to be the real reason. Yeah. All that training, man, for sure.
And so it's more of a relationship aspect to me than it is just the color of the belt.
Right. Yeah. No, absolutely, man. Absolutely.